Hey everyone, it's Affy, and today I am here to do my January wrap up. I read 8 books in January, one being a contemporary. So, not gonna talk too much, I'm just gonna hop right in. So, the first book I read in January is by Kerrigan Byrne. This is the last book in the Devil You Know series. This is The Devil in Her Bed. And in this story, we have Declan, Chandler, and Francesca. And in this book, we have a secret identity trope. These two are childhood friends, but they don't. They're kind of friends in different ways. It's hard to describe, but Francesca is hiding something, and Declan is also hiding something, and they knew each other as children, but neither one of them knows the other one's secret, and it's just kind of this discombobulated mess of a situation. In this, we have a horrible thing that happens in the beginning to Declan and Francesca when they're children. Basically, everyone they know gets murdered, and they're the only two left. And in fact, they think that the other one is dead as well. So basically, both of them think that they were the only ones to survive this. And then he finds her and he starts trying to be with her because as a child he had this huge crush on her. And it's a very interesting book. So it's also the last book in a series, and this series has a lot of intrigue, obviously, because there was this huge massacre essentially that happened when they were kids. She's kind of on this hunt to find out who did it, and he's kind of on the hunt as well. So they're kind of working together in a way to figure out who put out the hit on their family when they were children. And she's like a little lady James Bond. Like, she's crazy. She's out here breaking into homes at night and interrogating people. Like, she's a badass. She's a badass. These two were like magnets, though. They were drawn to each other. Like, they could sense the other person in the room. It's kind of weird. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked Declan. He's an interesting character. Francesca, like I said, she's super cool. She's like a lady Bond. She's just a bit headstrong, but I still liked her. The next book I read in January is another book by Beverly Jenkins. This is the second book in the Wild West series. So we have Portia and Kent, and they knew each other when she was, I think, around like 12 and he was 18 years old. He used to work for her uncle's bar that he had back in Virginia City. They end up being attacked by a mob of people. They have to flee Virginia City, and they end up in Arizona, where they start a hotel. Portia is the hotel manager, I believe, or she does the bookkeeping for the hotel, and she runs a lot of things for the hotel, and she's very smart. And she's decided that she never wants to get married. She just wants to run the hotel for her aunt and uncle when they're gone, and she's going to be happy with that. She wants to stay a spinster. Kent rides into town one day, and he has been all over the place. He's landed himself in jail. He's worked random jobs here and there. He ended up in Mexico for a while, and he's kind of ready to settle somewhere. And so he asks her uncle, do you have work that you can help me find? I'm ready to kind of put roots down and stop moving all over the place. And so her uncle helps him with a job for a short while, and then the opportunity comes up for him to own a farm. One day they are going for a walk, and she asks him to kiss her. She feels like, if she's going to be a spinster, she's probably never going to get the chance to kiss somebody, and so she wants to get it out of her system. And of course, they kiss, and now she can't get it out of her system. Now all she can think about is Kent. And the story kind of goes on from there. They do have time alone, just the two of them, to get to know one another. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. As a whole, I'm not loving this series as much as I like the Destiny series by Beverly Jenkins. This one's just okay for me. The third book that I read in January is by Lisa Kleypas. This is the second book in the Ravenel series. This is Marrying Winterborn. And we've got a step back in here. So in this one we have Rhys Winterborn and Lady Helen Ravenel. And their story actually starts in the first book. He ends up being hurt after a train crash, and he is staying with the Ravenels in the country for a short while he recuperates, and he and Helen meet that way. And while he's recuperating, he won't allow anyone but Helen to tend to him. He hears her voice and he thinks she sounds like an angel, and he's just like, I want her to read to me. I want her to take care of me. And then once he gets better, he ends up asking her to marry him. She says yes. But at some point towards the end of the book, he goes in to kiss her, and she has what can only be considered a bad reaction to the situation. She ends up crying, and her sister-in-law sees this and thinks that, he's hurt her. And so she goes and tells him, like, she doesn't want to marry you anymore. You took advantage and she's not interested any longer. But that's not the case. Helen had never been kissed before, and she was just a little taken aback by the situation. She's very nervous. She's very shy. And she decides she's going to go to him. She goes to his office. He owns a mall. And she tells him, it doesn't matter what my sister-in-law said. I still want to marry you. Do you want to marry me still? And of course he does. And so they decide that they're going to get engaged again. But he says under one condition, which is that he gets to ruin her. So he gets to sleep with her, basically. And she agrees. And it's an interesting story. I liked it. It took a different turn than I expected. Rhys, I said in my notes that Rhys is a manly man with a heart of gold, and he's very much he owns an entire mall, so he's a tough guy, and he doesn't take any shit, and he's a ruthless businessman. And I have here, that he's quite demanding and he gets his way, except when it comes to Helen, in which case he's like pudding. He just, he does whatever she wants. He gives her whatever she wants. Just the sweetest man when it comes to Helen. And he has this thing where even though he runs this major business, like, he can't be away from her for long periods of time. I mean, they go back out to the country and he follows her there. He's like, I'm going to put aside business for however long it takes to go back and be with my woman. And he does. He doesn't close up shop, but he's definitely like, you know what, I'm going to leave the business to my people, and they know what they're doing. I trust them. I got to go see to my woman. And in this one, there's technically a class difference because he is a working man. Of course, he's got his mall and he's worth like millions of dollars or pounds or wherever they are, London, America. He's worth millions, but he is still working class. He is not of the ton. And so this is still a class difference. And it's just a sweet, sweet story. I loved it. I really loved it. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. These two are so, so cute together. And he's a puddle for her. He does anything she wants. He gives her anything she wants. He's mad for this woman. He's gone for her, and I love it. So, yeah. So the fourth book that I read in January is by Sarah McLean. This is the third Rule of Scoundrel, so the third book in the Rule of Scoundrel series. And this is No Good Duke Goes Unpunished. And in this one, we have Mara Lowe and William. He goes by Temple. So Temple and Mara. And in this book, on his father's wedding day, Temple wakes up to find blood all over his sheets. And he doesn't know what's happened. But according to everyone, he has murdered the bride-to-be on her wedding day. And he's like, I don't remember anything. Like, there's no way that happened. But there's no body. And everyone decides that he's a murderer. So everybody starts to call him, the Killer Duke. And his family disowns him, basically. And so for 12 years, he goes on living his life. He opens the gaming den with his friends. So she approaches him. It's been 12 years. And he basically is like, you know what? You ruined my life and I'm going to make you pay. You're going to put yourself out into society again and let people know that I didn't kill you. And in the meantime, you're going to be my mistress. And so she agrees, but she happens to work for an orphanage, and she only agrees to this because she needs money to run this orphanage. And so he tells her, you can't leave again. Like, the first time you left, you put me in a really bad situation, so you're not allowed to leave again. But this woman is constantly running away from him. She is so irritating with how many times, like, she drugs him and runs away. She fools him and runs away. She flat out just runs away. Like, she's just constantly leaving. And he's like, every time you leave, I'm going to find you. So why do you keep running away? She just, I don't know what it is about Mara. She's a weirdo. But I did like this one. He, in the very beginning, was extremely upset with her because of everything that had happened, obviously. But he gets over it pretty quickly. It's just an interesting book. Like, it's, in a way, the premise kind of feels ridiculous, and I don't know, thinking back, like, the storyline in and of itself was kind of all over the place. He goes from being really, really upset with her to really, really wanting her. And then, she keeps getting him in trouble, but he's still like, but I want her anyways. And all these situations, like, bad things just happen to him when she's around, and yet he still wants her. And I'm just like, why? Like, you almost ended up in jail because of this woman. Like, why are you so into her? It is what it is. I'm gonna give it a 4-star. They were very romantic to each other in the way that they spoke to one another, but, like, action wise and physicality wise, or physically, I just didn't feel it as much. Like, the words were very pretty words to one another. But outside of that, there wasn't much else going on. There wasn't much chemistry outside of them just talking pretty. So the next book that I read in January is The Serpent Prince. This is by Elizabeth Hoyt, and this is the last book in this series that I needed to finish. And in this book, we have Simon and Lucy. And Simon is basically left dead in a ditch, and Lucy finds him on her way home one day, and brings him back to her house and helps basically care for him until he's back to normal. And he and her dad do not get along. These two men, he's just constantly like messing with her dad and setting him off, and her dad is just one of those men that gets blustered where he's like, how dare he. He's one of those kind of men. And Simon just loves messing with her dad, and those are some of my favorite scenes in the book. But anyways, obviously somebody is out to get Simon, otherwise he wouldn't have been left dead in a ditch. And so one day, while he's still there in the country with her and her family, he gets shot at, and she's walking with him. And so, you know, her father finds out, and he's like, I don't know what's going on, but somebody's clearly after you. You need to get away from my family because you're going to get us all killed. And so he gets sent back to London. And he comes back like a week later and asks Lucy to marry him because he can't stop thinking about her. And she agrees, which her father is not happy about. Her father cannot stand Simon. But they get married anyway. And then come to find out that he has been doing all these duels. His brother was murdered by a group of men, and he is on his own track to murder all these men for killing his brother. And so he's been setting up duels with all these men and one by one killing them. And it's interesting. He goes from being this very funny, very charming man to being very serious and very like about his business once he gets back to London, because he's on this war path. Like he is so serious about killing all these men. He can't think about anything else. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. At first I was like, is it a good idea for you to really marry Lucy, knowing that people are out after you and knowing that you're on your own war path? But he just can't be without her, so he marries her anyway. And their relationship is really cute. His need to just kill everybody was borderline psychopathic. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, just because of, you know, him and his whole revenge plot that was going on. But I still enjoyed it a lot, so I gave it 5 stars. So the next book I read in January is by Karen Rainey. This is the 4th book in the Highland Lord series, and this is To Love a Scottish Laird. And we've got a step back on the back there. In this book we have Hamish McCrae and Mary. And Mary is a doctor, and Hamish has been scarred and also has a lame arm. One of his arms doesn't work. So he was a ship captain, and he had been in India when his ship was basically taken over. All his crew was killed, and he was kidnapped. And they did a lot of horrible things to him, including and up to tattooing his entire body. Doing all kinds of things to him physically, which left him again with a lame arm. So his left arm, I believe, doesn't actually work. And so she comes to help care for him, and his brother is the one that hires her. And when they get there, at first he refuses her help completely. He's like, no, absolutely not. I don't want her help. Leave me alone. And he's slamming doors in people's faces and just like, fuck you, I don't care. One evening she's able to get him to allow her to help him, and it takes a few days, but he slowly starts to open up to her. And then one night they're playing a game, and he propositions her, and she says yes. Mary's a widow, and she's kind of just misses being with a person, I guess, and so she's open to having a sexual relationship with him, getting some sexy times on. And he basically kicks his brother out of this entire castle that they're staying at. And his brother's like, this is a horrible idea. Why are you just staying here with this one woman? Like, you're going to ruin her in the eyes of society if anybody finds out. And he's like, well, just don't tell anybody. So his brother leaves, and it's just the two of them in this castle, and they just spend time together for like over a month and a half. Like, she just stays there. She's supposed to go home. She's supposed to go back to her town, and she just can't leave him. She doesn't want to leave him. And so things are happening back home in her town. People are expecting her to come back, and she's not, and they're starting to get worried. Some people are getting upset with her. I like this story a lot. This was another good one by Karen Rainey. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. Hamish really opens up to her in a way that he doesn't open up to anybody else in his life, not even his family. She's willing to listen and not pass any judgment, and he really likes that about her. He just kind of tells her everything that happened to him in India, and I think in some ways he sees her as seeing the new version of him instead of seeing the old version of him, and now seeing the way he is now and having a way to compare the two men. Like, she just knows him as he is now after everything has happened to him. And then for Mary, she's a widow. She was married off to her father's friend before her parents passed away. And while you would think that it would have been a bad thing, he treated her very well. It's such an interesting story. Like, I love the premise and the way that it ends up working out for the two of them. It's just interesting. It's just, I really liked it. I don't know what else to say. I just really like this book. I gave it 5 stars, like I said. So the next book that I read in January is by Megan Frampton. This is The Duke's Guide to Correct Behavior. This book I gave 3 stars. This book basically had no storyline. It's a governess story. Marcus had a child with a woman, and he had basically paid this woman money to have the child and just disappear. He didn't want to see her or the baby again. But he wakes up one day after he's had a party, because he's just one of those guys that loves to party and drink and smoke and have women around. And he wakes up and that little girl is on his doorstep. And so now he has to figure out what to do about this child. So he decides he's going to hire a governess. In comes Lily. So she is our governess, and this is their romance. I will say there really wasn't a damn thing that happened in this book. There's no plot whatsoever. It's basically just them spending time talking to each other in the evenings and having a drink together, or going on walks with the little girl, or, having other little kids come over to play with the little girl, or like, there's no plot. There's no plot whatsoever in this book. I was bored. I was bored out of my fucking mind, and I just was waiting for anything to happen whatsoever. I will say I do like that even though he had never wanted to really be a father and had never really paid attention to this little girl, once she does come into his life, he really cares about her. He really becomes a good father. Outside of that, I didn't feel any chemistry. Sex scene just popped out of nowhere, and it just wasn't much. I will say I do like Megan Frampton's writing. She's got a very quirky, very witty way of writing, and that was entertaining enough to keep me reading the book. I would say her writing is what kept me reading the book, not the actual story itself. I did consider DNFing. This was just kind of there. This was just a book that happened to be a book. So, yeah. I I don't have anything else to say about this one. The next book that I read in January is The Ugly Duchess. This is by Eloisa James. This is part of the fairy tale series. In this book, we have Theodora, or Theo as she goes by, and James. And this book, oh my gosh, this book gave me blue balls. This book was so... Okay, so we have Theo and we have James, and they grew up together. She was the ward of his father because her father passed away. And so his father basically took her and her mother in, and they grew up together. When they're about 18, 19 years old, his father has run out of money. He's been making horrible investments. And so he begs James, like, I need you to marry her so that we can use her dowry. We're basically broke. We're poor. And James doesn't want to because she is his friend. She feels like a sister to him. And so he's like, I don't want to do that. That's weird. Like, don't make me marry her. But his dad insists, and so finally he agrees. And while they're at a party one day, he kisses her, makes sure that people catch them, and they have to get married. Well, he wasn't expecting anything to really come of it, but when he kissed her, he realized that he does have feelings for her. And so they get married, and by that point, they're both realizing that they have feelings for one another. And they have a great wedding night, and everything's going smoothly until she overhears him and his father talking about the fact that he had been forced to marry her. And then all shit goes to hell. This book got so ridiculous after that. This book gave me blue balls. Like, I was waiting for chapters and chapters and chapters and chapters for them to be together after she basically turns him away. And the middle majority of the book is just them being apart. 4 stars. I still did enjoy it. When they did get back together, things got very interesting and fun from there, but I just wish that they hadn't spent so much time apart between the two of them. But when they do get back together, you know, they've both grown, they've both changed as people, and they kind of have to relearn each other and figure out who this new person is. This one was good though. I did enjoy it. So the last book that I read in January is contemporary. So I'm just finishing up this series. This is by Elsie Silver. This is Reckless. This book was lots of fun. We've got Theo and Winter, and they have a one-night stand. She gets pregnant, he disappears for like a year and a half, and when he comes back and realizes he's got a child, they reconnect, obviously, and it's their romance from there. I feel like a lot of people have read this book, so I'm not going to go into detail, but I think for me, the best part about this book was Theo. He's a very upbeat person. It's very Grumpy Sunshine. She's brutish or she's very broody, sorry. She's very broody, kind of cold, and he's the complete opposite, where he's constantly making jokes, and for whatever reason, her ice cold demeanor is interesting to him. He finds that interesting about her. I think he likes trying to thaw her out, and he does a pretty good job with it. He's cool. He's book boyfriend goals for sure. I gave it 5 stars. So those are all the books I read in January. If you have any questions about any of these books, you want to talk more about these books, you've read some of these books and you have your own opinions about them, definitely let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. And oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Okay. This was a bad idea. I'm gonna put you down now. I'm gonna put you down. You go ahead. Okay. Yeah, if you have read any of these books, definitely let me know, or give me some recommendations for other books that you think I might want to read. I'm still putting together my TBR for March right now. But yeah, this was a fun one. I would say I had a pretty good month for January. It was kind of all over the place, but it was good. So, I still enjoyed it. But yeah, leave me some comments, and if you don't want to leave a comment, but you do want to leave a comment, leave me a giraffe. Leave me a giraffe emoji. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.